Right. Yes, let me pull up my. We're live. All right. Can everyone hear me all right? Just want to make sure everyone can see, everyone on this occasion right now can see me and hear me. Colgan, we're good. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you both. Thank you. All right. I'm going to give it a minute. I'll see if we get any trickles in. I see we have a Mr. Kevin Bush here who's excited for this. Hello, Mr. Kevin. It's been a while. It's good to see you.
What up, Kev?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Colgan. Yeah, we're all connected in a way, that Boston connection. So yeah. All right. I got all that good. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Just in case I have to reiterate anything, I will make sure to do that. Well, hello everyone. My name is Joel Edwards. I am one of the founders / runners of the Moonlighters Agency, which started as the Moonlighters Club. And today is Moonlighting and Mental Health. We're here to talk about the mental stressors and obstacles that come with not just entrepreneurship, but employment as well. The term Moonlighters, Colgan and I talked to a lot of folks who work. We talked to a lot of people who are building passions and businesses while maintaining roles at companies or doing one or the other. So we are joined by our good friend, the esteemed Dr. Bianca Bush. Thank you so much for being here today. Before we get into that, I will let the good doctor introduce herself. I enjoy calling you a doctor so much. I love talking to my college friends. It gives me a lot of pleasure. But the Moonlighters Agency started as a Moonlighters Club. So years ago, it started as a podcast where we would interview anyone who worked a full-time job and had something that they were trying to grow on the side. It started with myself and my good friend, Sean Bedgood. I was building a fitness app, and Sean was a police officer at the college I was going to at the time, and he was doing stand-up and acting. So it initially started with frustration of, okay, we work, but we're trying to jump into other things. And we kept meeting people at the company that I worked at the time who were doing the same thing. That has evolved into the agency where I work with my friend Colgan and I. We highlight the lives of these employee entrepreneurs. We do it through podcast interviews, audio only, and also video. We do live showcases where we go. We've done it in Boston and Baltimore where we set up a stage and Moonlighters talk about their experiences of juggling the 9 to 5 and their passion. And we also work with organizations where we go to organizations and profile their employees, but champion their employees in the organizations simultaneously, show the good work that they do in work and outside of work. And we've been doing that for a few years now. Now, the reason behind today is the majority of the conversations that Colgan and I have had, every showcase that we have put, and Colgan and myself have all dealt with some kind of mental obstacle while doing the work that we do, while working, while growing businesses. And we've noticed that it was a recurring theme. The nicest people we've met, the happiest people that we've met will come out of left field with a story about stress or this crippling anxiety out of nowhere. And we all just kind of dealt with it and, went through it. We'd share these stories after we had gone through the tough stuff. And recently, Colgan and I have been having weekly check-ins that we record and share. And it has been super helpful for us. Now, as talented as Colgan and I are, we are not doctors. We said, hey, it'd be a good idea to bring someone in to talk about this. It could be beneficial to us. It will be beneficial to us, but also to our friends who are going through the same thing and people that we don't know who are going through the same thing. So that is why we're here. That is what we're doing this for. We want to shed light on the stressors and the anxieties and the fear that comes with what we're doing. So thank you for letting me do that. I will let my guests and friends introduce themselves. Colgan, please let the good folks know who you are, what you do.
Hey, everybody. My name is Colgan Johnson. I'm an educator, artist, co-runner of the Moonlighters Agency, owner and founder of 1981 & Co. Yeah, I do a little bit. That says a lot in of itself, but with that being said, I'll talk more later on, but that's me in a nutshell. We'll go to Bianca after that. Dr. Bianca. So good to have you.
So glad to be here. Thank you. Dr. Bianca Bush. I'm an adult, child, and adolescent psychiatrist. So that means I've gone to medical school and completed additional training to be able to provide therapy and prescribe medications for people in the entire lifespan. And so I met Joel and Colgan when I was in Boston completing my child psychiatry fellowship at the Boston Children's Hospital. And yeah, we got to know each other. Colgan just really documented a beautiful time in our lives when we were pregnant with our son, Kendrick. So yeah, we know each other. And then I went to one of your events when I was a moonlighter, literally a moonlighter. So maybe I'll get to talk about that a little bit, but I was working at Boston Children's Hospital and then moonlighting at another hospital in the city to save up money to start my practice, which I am now in full time. So y'all were there at the very beginning of the journey and it continues.
Nice.
Can I say for that, congratulations for having your full-time practice. I've definitely been a part of that. Joel's been a part of that, but I'm just so happy for you and your family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just amazing. So happy for you. So happy to have you here too.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for breaking that down. I remember those. I remember those days, the beginning stages. So
Yeah.
I guess we could start here. The topic of mental health can be taboo at points. I can speak for myself and the word therapist in the Black community. My friends, like I have a therapist now, and I remember it slipped one day. And my friends were like, "What?" And I go, "Oh, I mean, my friend that I talked to." Like I just had to kind of break. And I having to explain to them, like, no, this is just something that I want to do that I think would be beneficial for me. But the concept of it can be taboo, whether you're talking to family, friends, coworkers, things of that nature. Dr. Bianca, I want to actually hear your opinion on. Well, one, do you think what I'm saying is somewhat accurate that there is a taboo around it? And for folks who find it that way, from what you've heard, why do you think that is? Where does that come from?
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely a difference in the generations as time goes on, right? So like my mom is like, only quote unquote crazy people need therapists, right? And so if you're not crazy, then you don't need a therapist or mental health help. And that trickles down to sort of our generation. But I find for the college students that I work with, they're much more open to it. They're like, no, I need a therapist, right? And they've convinced their parents. They're like, this is what I need. This is a standard part. I have things I need to talk about and work through. So I think there's a generational component. But for our generation and older, yeah, it's like there's something seriously wrong with you if you need a therapist, right? But there are a lot of communities that don't believe that. They believe therapy is just a part of your everyday, normal, taking care of yourself, being well, right? There's also a perception that you have to have gone through some really significant and severe trauma to need therapy. And that's also not the case. I think that we can redefine trauma as any experience that comes to you that's unexpected. So that really takes us out of the things that we traditionally think about as trauma. Not that we're not having these things in our lives. So many of us have them in our life. Gun violence, sexual trauma, intimate partner violence, those kinds of things. But there are other things that just happen to you unexpectedly that you're not ready for, you're not sure how to react, and those are also categorized as trauma. And you need someone to talk with about those things. And it can't always be your friends or your family.
Yeah. Colgan, has it been your same experience with just the topic of mental health therapy? Is it something you've been able to speak freely about? Yeah, I'd love to hear. Well, I know, but I'd love to hear.
I'll tell you why I chuckle. So I think I am from that group that was raised to keep it amongst friends and family. And then I've learned in my years, and especially as of late, I think I do keep things close to the chest myself, right? So I had what I'll call an episode, probably like just over a year now, where I had to get hospitalized. I'll blame it on exhaustion, right? And coming out of that, I was urged by friends and family to seek a therapist. Um, Talked to my mother, a couple friends. Now, in that quest, and I'm still in the quest for one, I guess I should say, right? I've gone back to my own, I guess, coping strategies, which are the gym, talking to my friends, right? Writing, drawing, photography. But I don't know. It's different now because photography has its own stressors. It's no longer just a form of expression, right? It's goal oriented, and I have a whole nother situation with it that breeds anxiety, but it still calms me. But the quest for a therapist, now I find my own resistance, to be honest with you, right? I see how I'm not necessarily open to just talking about my problems, or which problems do I talk about, because it's so ingrained about what to talk about and what not to talk about, like in my own head, you know? And then like life keeps happening. So to find a person that I trust and want to like divulge all that with, it's been a real struggle.
I appreciate you being transparent with that. I speak from my
Mhm.
personal experience. I didn't want to do it this past year.
Yeah.
At our showcase, Colgan and Dr. Bianca, I talked to you about it briefly before the show. We did a showcase in Baltimore, and the comments that we heard about how hard the previous year was for everyone was jarring. And last March or so, I was laid off at the same time that our daughter needed full time care. Like she didn't have anyone watching her. So I'm like trying to do that, grow what we're doing. And my whole way of thinking was, I got this. I'll just work my way through it. I'll just get so busy that that'll be my thing. I don't want to sit here and admit it was some weird way of admitting not psychological, well, I guess psychological failure. It's like, if I can't manage, what good am I if I can't manage this while I'm doing this stuff that I'm doing? And it got to a point where thankfully my wife was like, no, you're doing this. Like, you don't have an option. You're doing this. And it's super helpful once I was able to. It was tough finding someone because I didn't even know the beginning processes of where to look. But I did,
Mhm.
thanks to referrals. And now I'm all in. I'm all in. It's been really helpful for me to have something to look forward to, knowing I'll be able to just share openly, and also being able to separate work from therapy. There are other things I do, like, it can be from push-ups to going to the gym to going for walks, but to have added that added activity has been really helpful for me to be able to say, I'm just going to tell you everything, and I don't have to worry about anything. We can just talk this through and go from it. It's been really freeing. So Cole and we've talked. I definitely I hope you're able to get the resources you need to find it, but it's been super transitional for me.
I appreciate that, man.
Um,
Glad you have too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Miaka.
I was just going to say, it can be hard to find someone, right? Someone that you trust. I mean, depending on who you're looking for, where do you start? You can see therapists that have all of these different letters at the end of their name. Which one is the right one? Should you see an LCSW? Should you see an LMHC? Right? All of this like code words. Which one is the right one? Then you might want to find someone who shares your identity, right? Whether that's your gender, whether that's your race. And so we know that only about a fourth of social workers, less than that, 22% of social workers are Black. If you're looking for someone who's Black, 2% of psychiatrists are Black, right? So it can be hard to find someone with a shared identity. Then you got to think about, how are you going to cover it? Is your insurance going to cover it? Are you going to pay out of pocket? So it can be really hard to find the person, just to find someone. And then, Hogan, like you said, to think about, well, what am I going to talk to them about? So I like what you said, Joel, and you just kind of take all of your things and just, this is what's going on, right? That's an option too. So take all of the stuff and let them help you sort it out.
Yeah, appreciate that. Now I like to jump into the employment side of what we do here. We at times tend to, well, when the podcast started, it was this rebellious, we want to be entrepreneurs, but now it's kind of, no, we all don't have to do that. Working is a part of everything. Some people like having their jobs and doing that, and I'm all with it. My viewpoint has changed. One big thing that happened starting in 2020 was remote, and everyone wanted it. And
Mm,
not everyone, a lot of people I know wanted it, right? We wanted to be able the flexibility of remote work. I'll be honest with you, I hate it. You both know me. I'm a very social person, and I
mhm,
am I am currently in a basement. I go crazy. Like, I miss. I don't miss certain things, but I miss people.
mhm,
What have you
mhm.
seen in the past few years on the effects of remote work how people
Mhm.
view it, the effects it's had on them as people as we've been going through these past 3 years.
Well, so the people, I can speak as a clinician and then also just as a regular person. As a clinician, for the people that I treat who have anxiety, like general anxiety, social anxiety, the pandemic was great because they could just stay at home. They didn't have to see anybody. They didn't have to go anywhere, right? So it's fantastic for them, right? So I would see it all the way from my little kids all the way to my adults. They would be thriving. Some of my little kids, they're doing better in their classes and their schoolwork because they don't have to go in, right? And the same with my adults. So it just depends. And then there are people who are very social, right? Like you, Joel, and it was not good. They're missing people. They're craving the interaction with folks, and being in the house is terrible. So it really depends. I can't say that it was great across the board for everybody, but for some people, it really was good. I think that for the most part, people are enjoying the hybrid aspect, right? Like if you enjoyed being at home, you still get to be at home some. But if you really felt like I need to be in the office, I need to see my colleagues, you're glad to be back in the office part of the time. So I think it works for the most part. For people, it just depends. And there are some people who are like, no, I want to be at home 100% of the time. In general, when we look at the statistics and surveys, it seems like a lot of people were happier and more productive when they're at home. So that's what the statistics say. And then I know there's also a lot of conversation with employers about what are the gains or losses of having people work at home and what's happening with this space that's unoccupied by employees and that kind of thing. But yeah, Joel, I'm curious about like how did you see your productivity increase, decrease with pandemic? And then also, I'm just curious because I saw your reactions. And then Colgan, did you enjoy being home? I saw you smile.
Yeah, Colgan, I'll let you chime in. We had a couple comments that that I'll highlight both of them because they show both sides. And so Kevin Push put transitioning to work remotely has allowed me to much easier attend therapy appointments versus trying to attend in person pre-COVID. And the big one was Jay. Shout out to Jay. What frustrates me about remote is how work can now follow us everywhere. We now have to be more intentional about creating work boundaries. So that was the big one for me. When I was at work, and there were elements of when I'm not working versus when I am working, talking to folks, doing my work. And there have definitely been times where I've taken work home with me. Most of the time I haven't. When I was at home, there are times where I'm crazy productive, but I'm also home. So there's definitely times where I struggle with it because I'm like, all my stuff is here. Like everything I have is here. Finding the ideal workspace within my house took some time. There are times where okay, I like this room, I can work in this room all the time, and then I'd lose it. So I think that was tough for me. Finding structure at home to work and finding the right way to create my own boundaries around it. There were times where I loved it when I was in the mood for it, but I think that is what was hard for me. It was kind of like this is my space. Now I'm sharing this space with the work that I do, which I can do, but it just felt different than like, no, I'm walking into this building. My friends are, my coworkers are here. My friends are here. Everything I need is here. Cool. It's set up nicely. I can leave and then just relax. So I went on and off. My work habits changed in terms of whether I'm working on Moonlighters agency stuff or work stuff. I can find motivation from different places and surges in different places. So I was able to navigate it. But all in all, I just missed people really, and I feel like I pull a lot of energy and productivity from people, and that's what hit the hardest. Kogan, I'll let you chime in on this.
I loved it, man, but not to be antisocial. Just I enjoy making my own schedule, and that remote time allowed me to, I think, validate some inner feelings I was feeling about the entrepreneurial spirit, about how I could be more responsible about my time, my money, and then when I was allowed that time, I wasn't necessarily, amped about necessarily going back. Grateful for the things that allowed me, but I don't necessarily like being on someone else's schedule just for the way they do things. And so much of normal work and like work and education is on like this rote schedule that is not necessarily always akin to growth. It's just a routine. So if you can make a routine that is akin to growth for yourself and others, then all for it. Now how we do that, I don't know. I spent a life trying to do that for myself and others though. So I think we all require that. So yeah, man, I was able to make a little bit more dough, hone in on some things, and then do some deep learning that was away from people. But yeah, I was cool with it.
Yeah, yeah, I can
I
respect
like
it.
to say, Joel, for some things some tips that I give people, because I work from home pretty much most of the time. I do have an office where I go in, but my patients that I see who are also working from home, ways to sort of create some boundaries or some separation. One thing I talk about is having a routine for the start of your day and the end of your day, and one that is particularly helpful for people if you're working from your home is creating a psychological ending for your day, either by changing your clothes. This is something you can physically do, right? Like, well, one, in the beginning of the day, getting dressed for work is sometimes something I encourage people to do, right? Like, it's nice to be home, you can have on your sweats or whatever, but sometimes it doesn't allow you to get into the right headspace, right workspace. So actually getting dressed for work in some form, maybe not the full suit. And then at the end of the day, changing your clothes to something that's more relaxed. And then if you're not doing that, taking a short walk where you listen to music or a podcast at the end of your day. And then it's not always possible with your space, but keeping your space separate in some way. Putting up a curtain, a room divider, if you don't have the luxury of having a separate space in your house. So those are some things that I have found and my patients have found to be preserving for their mental health when they're working from home and having a hard time separating the two.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that, Sean. That's all me. It was a car leaving in my driveway. I have no control over that.
yeah, we started talking therapy and they got out of there.
But thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your take on what
Can I
you can do.
piggyback on one thing too?
Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead,
want to
Colgan.
make
Go
it
ahead.
sound like the remote thing was all bliss because it wasn't. I think I fell into Jay's habit of overworking on some parts because of the lack of boundaries. But that challenge, I think, is going to be there for life. I think that's just what I have to learn as an entrepreneur, but also share that struggle. Like, how do you make those boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
I think that taught me to accept that was a lifelong issue.
I appreciate your transparency on that. Well, speaking of that, what happened with remote work, Dr. Bianca, is companies having to adapt to do things like hybrid. But then I remember seeing just a change in what people wanted from their companies in terms of mental health. It became a topic.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the term. I see it in your title, college psychiatrist. What are you hearing in terms of what people want from their company, their future employer, current employer, in terms of support? And I'm curious, what have you heard in terms of what companies are doing to help people keep a positive state of mind? Because when we were younger, it was benefits. Like, you weren't even talking about that. It's like, just go to work, get benefits, be quiet. But now, how you treat me and how you treat the workforce is huge. So I'm curious if you've heard that from students. Just what are companies looking at to do? What are they doing? What's working?
Yeah, for my students, I see that they're seeking different kinds of work. I don't know that some of them are really wanting to go, I won't say more traditional paths, but there are definitely still students who are interested in being doctors, lawyers, engineers, that kind of thing. But some are really rallying against that, even if their parents are wanting them to do it. They're like, I don't want to get into the grind of those things. Yes, I'll have to work hard for so many years and there might be a payoff, but I'm not interested in that. And so they're pursuing journalism, or they're thinking about other creative paths. Right. And I, encourage that. Do the things that you love, that bring you joy, that are not going to bring you a lot of stress. Right. And that is not always popular with parents. But those are things that they're looking for. I also see that people are really interested in what the companies can do for them. They're really recognizing how their labor is being used by companies for the profit and the good of the whole company. And they're recognizing that and saying, okay, well, what am I getting out of this? Right. What are my health benefits? What are my mental health benefits? How many days am I getting off? Preferentially choosing jobs that are going to offer more sick time, days off, leave, that kind of thing. They're also looking for other kinds of benefits that the companies might offer, future education benefits, that kind of thing. So I think they're just they're savvy in how they're looking for jobs, which is interesting to see. It's inspirational too. that is keeping me on my toes as someone who's employing people, right? You have to think about what's going to be attractive to folks. So in my practice, as I'm expanding to a group practice, I'm thinking about, okay, what benefits can I offer? So I'm offering a monthly wellness stipend that people can use however they'd like. They can use it for therapy, they can use it for massage, whatever the case may be, because I want people to be well. And so I think employers can really create good companies and employees who are happy if they pay attention to these things. And I think you have to do a different math in your head and not just think about the monetary costs, but think about the emotional and labor costs that you can, I would say, gain, not necessarily lose, but gain when you give people either freedom or you care for them as employees. So that's my take. As I was preparing for this show, I found, well, one thing that I know for sure, you asked about what employers are doing. Some employers, for mental health specifically, are creating their own systems. They're not depending on the general health insurer to come up with their behavioral health package. So for instance, if they're using like United or one of the big companies, they're not depending on them. They're creating something separate. They're creating their own behavioral health kind of program or carve out that their employees have access to, which is really incredible and something that's interesting to think about. Like, why do they have to create something separate? Topic for another time, maybe. But so I've seen that. And then as I was preparing for the show today, thinking specifically about founders, I found this website called the Founders Pledge. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Just asking founders to commit to making mental health a priority in their companies. So I thought that's really interesting. It seems like you have to donate or something like that, but they also have resources available on their website for founders to share with their employees. So yeah, I think a lot is happening because I think people are demanding more.
The mental health day, is that a real thing? Like, I'm old, so like if you were able, if I was like, hey, I'm taking a mental health day today, you're like, how dare you think that is a thing here? But I've been hearing it a lot. Coley, feel free to chime in. Is that something, even Coley, yeah, is that something you do? Dr. Bianca, do you hear that becoming more of a real thing, a real term? Because again, we were taught that, you just work through stress, figure it out on your own time, get through the stress. I'm curious if that's been coming up more. People are taking advantage of just taking time off to get right.
I'll chime in really quick. I honestly think a lot of the way I operate now, being older, is thankfully to my father allowing me to take mental health days off when I was younger. He was a huge proponent of it. So I don't know what, he saw, because ironically, he didn't take too many days off, right? But maybe it was a schedule or something about me. I don't know. But, if he saw it on us that, said you don't feel right that day, he allowed us that awareness young. So growing older, I was, if I didn't feel like today was the day or there's something in the air, and, almost sound weird, but I sound weird, whatever. I always feel like there's something in the air of the day. Like the day has a tone to it, right? So some days you just wake up, you're like, nah, yeah. Whenever I can honor that, whoa, is me or the day. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, damn. So without getting too like, I don't know. We'll use the word weird or instinctual or whatever you want to use, though. I'm trying to like hone my instincts. I think that's all instinctual. So those days off, whether it's your body, your brain, or, you can avoid some BS in the workforce that day. Man, listen, those are all dope. So I'm thankful for that. And then now and then now if you don't want to be somewhere, I don't want you there. So if I don't want to be there, then I don't want to be there. But if you really don't want to be there, nah, don't be there, because that's so much more work on the team's part. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's not no BS, do you and come back. I'm not for that. I'm not.
I can respect that. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. You do worse work. Like if I'm not into it, the work is not going to be good. And you just see that repeatedly. So it's interesting though how we've always been taught that no matter what it is, man, show up. Just show up, just to say you showed up. And I know we've done that for actual sickness, like uh, physical sicknesses, where you see folks working themselves to death. But I do think we've started to turn a corner in terms of mental health, an aspect of like, no, this is real. This person's really stressed out. This person's, I know there are these taboo buzzwords of like depression and anxiety that people can't really wrap their heads around. But they can cripple you. You can have crippling anxiety. So, Kogan, I love that last point you made, where it's, if you're not right, you shouldn't be here. I think that's how it should be.
Well, and I see repercussions to that, right? When you're not feeling like being in a space, whether it's anxiety or depression, that can cause you to be irritable. You'll be snapping on people. And that has long-term consequences for your job, right? So, like, it's probably better to stay home, get your mind right, and then come back so that you can show up in the workplace in ways that are acceptable, so you're not losing your job. So I think it's definitely a real thing. Certainly there are probably people who take advantage of it. It's going to be the case always, but in general, I think it's a really good and helpful thing for people to have. And I see it at all stages. Again, I take care of patients all ages. And so my elementary kids have mental health days, right? And so I don't know that they even have a limit to the number. My little patient, her parents are like kind of our generation and above, and they're like, nah, you're not about to have too many mental health days, right? But they do have them, and I think it's really important. And you can set that up for yourself as an entrepreneur. So, I'm in therapy, been in therapy for years, 4 or 5 years. I think it's essential. I have to, for the work that I do. Everyone should, I believe. But it took me a while to deprogram, right? Because in medicine, you work no matter what. The hospital is never closed. So you got to be there. Unless you're contagious, you got to show up. And so it has taken a while to unlearn that and rework it in my mind. And I can remember in the beginning of being an entrepreneur, she was like, you should set aside some time each week to take care of yourself. So I have, in general, Monday afternoons and Friday afternoons, and I feel guilty. I'd be like, oh, but my colleagues who are still working at the hospital, like they're still working this time. Like, who am I to take this time to go to a museum or enjoy my life?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cognitive work that I've had to do, and I still feel guilty sometimes. I'm having that time twice a week just for me. I'm like, well, I should be doing something for my family, or I should still be doing something for my business. So, but it's essential so that I can show up for my patients. I can be really present for them. I have to take that time for me. And I would argue that any founder probably needs to do that for themselves so they can show up well for their employees, their investors, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. The guilt is real. I know that they're just like wanting to look out for yourself, but you should, it's okay. Like, it's okay to think of you because the people who run the show, definitely think of them. There have definitely been many an exec I've worked for is like, nah, man, I'm going to the vineyard. I'll see you all. And you're just like, all right, it's not that bad. So no, you definitely have to look out for yourself. One thing I want to key on that we've all talked about right in the intro is the hustle culture. Work, you're not sleeping. This is what you got to do. And especially for our folks that are actively moonlighting, the folks that were leaving work and working on something else, it gets crazy. For example, when we all met, I was working in Boston. I lived in Roxbury. I'd wake up at 5:30 every day, take a train, work out, go to work at least an hour and a half early so I could work on my business. I'd do it for lunch, and then after work, I'd rush home, and I'm going to sleep at like 11:30, maybe, and rinse and repeat. And I'm thinking, this is when the social networks were blowing up, but this is what you had to do. And there's this obsession with it now of just this, whether, and even for the folks that aren't entrepreneurs, there are people who work in finance, in law, who are, no, you're supposed to be at the office. You stay at the office. You stay here, and you just work super hard until you get that payoff at the end. Doctor, I'd like to get you have experience in it. I'd like to get your thoughts on it, and your viewpoint on how we should really handle it.
Mhm.
And also, you talk to folks of all ages. How do
Mhm.
younger folks view that? Do they view that, no, this is what we have to do when we leave this place? We're going to have to work extremely hard and give up on things like fun and sleep if we truly want to get the payoff that we're going to get at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my experience, obviously, training in medicine, you have so much work. I can remember, early in our relationship with Kevin, his background is in education. He was like, "You're going to stay up for how long, right? Like we work 24 hours, but it's really 28 by the time you do the work, and then they want you to stay to do sign out and all this stuff." He was like, "That's crazy. You have to be awake with like that whole time." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And actually, it used to be longer. It used to be longer. They changed the rules. So again, in medicine, it's ingrained in you. You have to work hard. It's going to pay off, and it's going to pay off in the end, right? Like you have to go to medical school. You have to do all this stuff, residency. You have to do like the worst stuff in residency, and then one day you'll be an attending, and it's going to be so great. And I think, yeah, there is a certain amount of payoff. I have to say that I feel like I have helped it pay off for me, right? Like I could be working at the hospital and not be as happy, but I am very happy with what I'm doing now. But I think that it depends on what you want the payoff to be, how long you want to wait, and that depends on the field, right? In law, I have patients who are lawyers, right? They're waiting to be like junior counsel and then senior counsel, or I can't remember all the terms, and then partner. But some of them are finding that, okay, well, you're partner, but how much are you actually making? And what is the structure of compensation? Is it really worth it? And so I think I see people asking that question. How long is it going to take? And then is it really worth it in the end? And then I think for people of color, when we think about, in particular, academia, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of publications. We had the death of one of our sisters in academia recently, taking her life. Is it really worth it in the end? Can you get to the highest place? Can you become a dean? Can you become all of these things? Will the sacrifice be worth it? And I think we have a lot of people recognizing that perhaps it's not possible to get to those highest places. So should I even do all of the sacrifice in the first place? So I think people are thinking more critically about it. And then also thinking like, okay, maybe I can hold on if I'm in iBanking for this 2 years that are going to be terrible until I get my promotion and then I can make more money. So I don't think people are just always going to it with gusto like, yeah, I'm going to do this. It's going to pay off in the end. I think people are starting to question more. Will it pay off in the end?
Yeah, Kogan, I know you would. Yeah, we both do this at times. Getting better. What are your thoughts on the hustle culture? I think you're muted.
Sorry about
There you
that.
go.
I'm trying to avoid the car. Yeah, I think I was born into it. I think I programmed myself into it. I'm a firm believer you could like work yourself into anything. Um, I might be talented, but I value more my ability to work hard into something and to persevere at it. Like so I'm trying to figure out how to balance that, right? Because I think right now I'm doing too much. Like something in my soul is saying I'm doing too much. How can I delegate more, trust more people to do a job, you know, but to do it on the level that I would do it. But I'm over that now too. Like I just want the job done. But I know I'm at that point where I gotta receive more help and try to actively deprogram that. I'm honestly I appreciate us right now because hopefully I can get some insight into that. How do I do more work for more money, right? But not like a lot more work. I mean like more valuable work for people and less clients because anybody who's met me, let's be real, I'm not here to like brown nose and kiss ass. That's not even in my makeup. So that's why I didn't even go to grad school. Honestly, in college, I loved college, but there was a moment in college where I go, wow, I don't know if they're looking at the paper. I don't know if they're looking at me. And I'm just here because of my brain, right? But I'm not here to offend anybody unless you happen to be offended by what I say. But it wasn't intentional. Like that's not even in my makeup. But if I have to like, go here and do that and say this, nah, like I realized a long time ago it has to be about alignment, because I don't think too many folks should do that. That like chips at your soul, right?
Yeah.
But we're kind of conditioned to do that. So mm, I don't know. I'm here for those answers, because I'd love to work with you, but I can't work for somebody, especially not somebody who's trying to exploit somebody. I'm trying to chill like you. Trying to chill by the beach, do some push-ups and chill out.
Yeah, I think Cole and Dr. Bianca, for me, it was what success was. Uh,
Mhm.
and back then, I'm building an app, starting the podcast. It's like, yeah, I want this app to blow up, but it was really about external validation. Money's a huge thing about it, but also going, I did that. That was me. This thing that everyone's using, I did that. When the work we do now, when we're doing showcases, doing podcasts, and things of that nature, I had to be humbled by past failures, like losing jobs or if a business is not going well, to realize I just want to be comfortable doing something. I like the idea of working towards something and doing something.
Mhm.
So my goalposts they've changed. I do want um, just to feel fulfilled with what I'm doing and being able to support myself. I don't want the billions that like I thought I did, 10 years ago. However, I think that the moving the goalpost is what makes this the culture so dangerous. This whole I have to work myself to the bones, because I don't know if there's ever a finish line. If there's roles and I want to be head lawyer, or if there's when are you done? If I'm running a business and I get to millions, how many people? I'm not seeing anyone stop, and that's the thing. It's always something new. So I really think it did come down to it was mental. Joel, why are you truly doing this? What are you really looking for? Oh, you really just want to be in a space, whether it's a business or another person's company, your own company, where you feel happy going there every single day, and you're working towards these goals that you're happy working for every day. Great. You have enough money to take care of yourself and do X, Y, Z, but you don't want all the money. And that's what I think is that's what I think is all up in the air right now, with people starting businesses, people starting work. The finish line that's advertised is very precarious. I need to be head person. I need to run this show. I need to get the most kudos from the boss ever. And that's where it gets dangerous, to where you don't want to leave the office. You don't want to call out sick. You don't want to be the person that's taking the mental health day. That's where you're not sleeping. I need to answer all these emails and make this business fly. And I think when the dust settles and you take a look back and you're realizing I really missed out on 10 years of this. Was it worth it? I just haven't seen it yet for me. So
Yo, can we talk about something real quick? You ever been a long-term sub?
no.
All right. So this is kind of what got me jacked up. Education is an animal, right? That's the whole thing. So I think I'm from an education family. Like it's like, I think we got family skill sets and we learn those, and then I don't know, could be wrong, but anyway, I was certified as a teacher, and then I could not be certified. Something happened in labs. So teachers call out, you can be a sub. Once you make like 30 days, you're a long-term sub. Money goes from like such and such to like little over 250 a day or something like that. But then you can't like miss a day after that, right? So I think that kind of got like sort of ingrained in my mentality. Or maybe I didn't want to miss a day because it was regulated on pay. And then somehow in your brain you get time and money in this construct kind of wrapped up. So it just gets wild. But I hear you a little bit, Joel, man. We got to get out of that. So
one thing I'd like to throw to Dr. Bianca is, in terms of this hustling and working, the one thing that tends to suffer the most with the hundreds of people that Coke and I have talked to is personal life. I've relationships, people we have interviewed, people who are trying to grind. I can't date. I can't. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for relationships. I've heard people talk about raising children, saying they're not going to be able to see me this much because I'm trying to build a life for them that I've never had. What can be done? And you talk about boundaries in terms of work life between your remote job being in here, But in terms of your life, what is truly important, the people that love you, what's worked for you, and then also what can people do to ensure that we are prioritizing the right thing, which is ourselves and the people that love us.
Yeah. Um, I mean, just living it, all of those things, right? So I didn't go to medical school. I was like a non-traditional student or whatever. So I didn't start medical school until I was 28, I think, which is, older. I wasn't the oldest in my class, but I was definitely one of the older ones, right? People will often start medical school around 22, 23, something like that. So, I did make some of those decisions about like, what am I going to do with my life, relationships? I really want this thing. I'm going to, need to be focused and that kind of thing. Maybe I'm not going to get into long-term relationships. So my life is like delayed. A lot of people in medicine, you'll hear them say like, oh, I didn't really feel like I was an adult until I finished residency, right? So you're talking about 4 years of medical school, anywhere from 3 to 10 years of residency, and then maybe more for fellowship. So that's a long time before people start to feel like they're quote unquote adults. So that kind of happens in medicine, and that happened in my life for sure. So I'm an older student. I'm like a quote unquote older mom, geriatric mom, whatever. I'm still young, okay? I still play. I still do all the things with my son, even though I'm, an older mom, whatever the case may be. So that's a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice. I have no regrets. I have no regrets. But people do make those sacrifices. And so now when you talk about what is the end goal, I think you do have to do some soul searching and say, well, what kind of partner do I want to be? What kind of parent do I want to be? Because a lot of my patients may have the parents who are super successful, but they're not present. And what does that mean for their relationship? What does that mean for that child and then adolescent and then adult sense of self? And so, I mean, I have the luxury of having these perspectives, these perspectives and these different time points in life through my patients, in addition to my own experience, to have made some decisions for myself, right? So, I could have chosen a career where I would be at home less. But part of me starting my own practice was so that I could be at home more. And I still work a good amount. Like, Kevin is working, I am working, Kendrick is in daycare. So we're still working. But if I were working at a hospital, I might have call where I'm at the hospital overnight. I might be there on the weekends. Even if I wasn't on call, I might have to leave the house at 7 a.m. to get there, and I may not come home till 6 or 7. And that's a long day. Like, those are the days that children are awake. So you're missing that time. So I had the luxury to make the choice. That doesn't exist for everyone. But part of me starting my practice was so that I could do that. And so how do we make it happen? You ask, like, well, what do we do? I mean, having a supportive partner, like, I could not do this without Kevin. He carries so much, right? Like, he has our benefits. He does a lot of the pickup drop off, right? So having a supportive partner for me is been key. And so that's one thing I talk about. We both work, even though he does a lot of the sports, we both work. And so having childcare, having backup childcare, I have a mentor who said, like, your job is only as good as your childcare. Like, if you are a parent, and that is so true, because like that the daycare is closed, or if your child is sick, like, somebody's not working. It's either going to be you or your partner, right? So you have to think about that. And then other things that I've done as I was building my practices, I would, and this is back to the hustle stuff, right? I would work when Kevin and Kendrick were asleep. So that did mean getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning to do work, or staying up late to do work after they've gone to sleep. And it's not sustainable. It's not something you can do for forever. So I think that's something else you have to keep in mind. Like, for how long can your body take this? Is there an endpoint in mind? Because you can't do it for forever. But that is something that has allowed me to sort of do the moonlighting, right? To work a job and then build something on the side. And then another thing that I would say is that, and I'm now putting on my child psychiatrist hat. No one is saying that you have to be a stay-at-home parent. That's not the best parent, right? There's a concept with a child psychoanalyst, D.W. Winnicott, who says that you just have to be a good enough parent. And that really means that you just need to be present. And at the times that you're present, it needs to be quality time. So one thing I talk to my parents about that I'm working with that have young children is really having a special time. And that can even be once a week, a half hour, where it's going to be just you and mom time or you and dad time, where your child knows, hey, you're locked in right now. There's no cell phone on, there's no TV going, and there's no cell phone for the parent or the child. You're not checking emails. Your child's not on socials. You guys are really engaged and doing some kind of activity together. If you can increase those times during the week, fantastic. But at least you're having that time once a week with your child, each parent. And so it's really coming up with that dedicated family time. And if you have a partner or a spouse, you got to have that time for your partner and your spouse too, right? Like Kevin and I, we try to watch a show at the end of the night. Kendrick is not sleeping right now, so that's not happening all the time. But we try to have some of that quality time in the evenings or, date nights. So you have to be intentional about it. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is one thing I started doing is before I was halfway there all the time. So halfway present all the time. So I felt like if I wasn't working on the business, I was just not doing what I was supposed to be doing. So I'd be out with friends, whether I was at my actual job or with my wife, just having a laptop around or a phone around. And this past year was beneficial for me because it helped me prioritize what was important. Now I'm just like, I'm all in. And then when I'm done, I'm done. So if I'm at work, when it's over, it's over. If I'm working on the extracurricular activities, if I'm doing editing, Moonlighter stuff, when I'm done, I'm done. I'm not going to have my laptop around my daughter. I'm not going to have my phone around my daughter. And I had to not feel so sad and guilty because it felt like I was I'm not losing. I just felt like I was losing ground. But again, it was all here. So I'm super intentional. When it's over, it's over. When I'm fun, I'm fun. And it took a while, but it got to that point. I think it was there's only so much time in a day. And you get to this notion that I gotta be working all these hours. In reality, I just had to say, this is the time where I need to be productive. If it's not done in this time, it is. And my daughter helped because she's like, I don't care what you got going on. I'm here. So it got to that point. And it became super helpful. And to those listening, this grind all night stuff, it's not real. I know people that the last company I worked for was like, everyone was the most laid back, chill person ever. And they were extremely productive. It's not true that you don't have to work like this all the time. You just have to find what works for you in terms of productivity. Cole, I'll let you chime in on that.
Man, I'm still looking for the sauce. What you mean? That's why I'm here, dog. Stop playing. I have no idea how to do any of that. You are looking at a certified workaholic, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like by the time I'm 50, I'm trying to figure out how to. I want the keys where I can feel like I can sit back and not feel like I have to have my brain on all the time. Like my brain is on, bro. Like it's on. And then recent life events, it's on even more. You know what I'm saying? I'm the oldest of 3. Like, gotta be the breadwinner. And then the way my brain is artistically, it's an obsessive type brain. So once it gets on something, it's just there because it's trying to unlock something, right? Along with my own stuff that we all got. So no, man, I need this time so I can open up and just know it. I know intrinsically it's going to be cool, but for some reason it's not always easy to vocalize, or I'm finding it hard to say after a day of pouring out all day, or just school, right? And then shifting. I'm just finding it harder to shift. Like it's easier for me when I have a day where I can calibrate it and make it my day and then go in. But like when I have to go from this all day to this, it's way harder now because I don't need all this. I don't. And that's not like offensive to anything. I understand what's going on. I'm aware and got it. Okay. But that's for you. I got to get back to, let me get this done so I can get to everybody else. So no, I'm struggling with that part now. As of right now, I think I need I would love for another month a way to just organize with somebody who could help me just organize what I get, you know what I'm saying, to get it out, next steps. That's what I've been doing for the past month. I actually took time off because I'm handling some stuff. So this last month off has been phenomenal for that. But no, I think I'm gonna need to take that 4 to 6 approach. I'm trying to figure out how to activate more in those hours. But that means going to bed, and I'm not a great sleeper. Like I feel like I'm awake at night. I wish I could turn the world around a little bit. That's why teaching is hard too. Like the fact that I'm even aware and can help out so many people between 7 and 10 is a godsend. Unless we're talking about sunlight and making photos, like Bianca, that sunrise. What?
Yeah.
What I'm here for. Come on. What? That's amazing. But man, no. So
Sounds like that's an agency goal. We're gonna help Colgan find that release and help. But hey, I could get my wife on this. She found it for me. She basically gave me an ultimatum, so we found it. But yeah, we'll help. We'll definitely help you get there. And for sake of time, Dr. Bianca, this was amazing.
Yes, it was.
It was good to discuss this. This is definitely something that needs to occur again. I thank you so much. I would like you at this point, if you have any closing thoughts, to share them. Or if you want to share your work, any resources, or where people can reach you, feel free to do that now.
Sure. So you can reach me at drbiancabush.com or collegepsychiatrist.com, both of those websites. And then all the socials are at College Psychiatrist. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and then you can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Bianca Bush. On the website, College Psychiatrist, you will find various resources that are really applicable for folks for all ages about handling stress and relationships. Check out our socials. We always have tips about different things. We have a great post, I think, on all of our platforms about resources for women, since it's Women's History Month. And then you can contact, if you ever have questions about caring for your mental health, just book a consult with me, 15 minutes, easy peasy. Even if we don't work together, I usually give folks resources about like, okay, this is a place that you can go for help if we're not going to work together. But I love, love, love what I do. I feel so lucky that I get to take care of people and hear about their lives, that they trust me. They trust me to talk about their lives, and I don't take it for granted. So, and I'm grateful for you guys for having me on the show.
Thank you. Colgan, anything you want to shout out?
I just want to say thanks to Bianca. Thank you to you. This was an amazing time, So, and I'm just thankful for all this. I'm looking forward to, the future. I'm very appreciative right now. I realize how special it is when things come together, like the time and intention it takes. So I'm grateful for it. I appreciate you both, for real.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you. And for those watching, thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined. Thank you, everyone who commented, who watched on YouTube or IG or added on Eventbrite. My name is Joel. We are the Moonlighters Agency. If you would like to work with us as an organization, or if you want to tell your story, hit our website, moonlightersclub.com, or just email me, joel@moonlightersclub.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're also on LinkedIn. But if you just want to watch and listen to stories for people who are employee entrepreneurs and their journeys, we have a podcast that's on Apple and Spotify. It's on most networks. Just look for the Moonlighters Club podcast. You'll find us. But then we also have footage on YouTube and Instagram of past showcases and interviews that we've done in person. But thank you all for joining. Dr. Bianca, this was amazing. We definitely got to bust a redo, because I have 1,000 more questions.
Okay.
And also, this is an ongoing thing, and I feel like it could be helpful to folks in the grind to be able to hear and share. So thank you so much for doing this for us. We both really appreciate you.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone else, please enjoy the rest of your Monday. I hope you have a good rest of your week. Take some time to take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.